Welcome back, everyone, to Piney Plays the Scholar. And looks like since the last episode, we received a little bit of mail from Brithilwyn, who wished to thank us for helping her with the vineyard. So she gave us a little bit of her vintage, I suppose. That's nice. But in addition, we need to speak with Callangil here to see what the situation is on his vigil.
How can I be of service?
So, Thinglar has succeeded in driving the darkness from Thamgalar with your aid. I do have such a task before me, but alas, I have no trinket from Rivendell to aid me. I do, however, know that certain herbs of these lands do can, when mixed in a draught, should be able to serve to purify the nearby ruins. Will you lend me your aid in this endeavor? Alright, fine. I'll get the herbs for the draft.
Mind my words, traveler.
You have decided to help me? Excellent! Yes, there is a draft I know the making of that could cleanse the taint from the ruins of Dol Ringwest. I have most of the ingredients I need, but there is one remaining herb, a fragrant herb that grows on the shores of the river running north to south below Dwoyland. 'Tis a simple matter to gather them. I would do it myself, but the brewing is a delicate stage right now, and I must keep a close eye upon. Well, at least he gives a reason why he's sending us. Because some quest givers, what? Why give a reason that I'm not doing it myself? Yeah, I mean that would be too polite to give you a reason for not doing it myself. But alright, let's see what we can do here. We will head down there after I speak with the other quest givers in the area. Not all of them, though. Some of them have to do with the festival. Hello there, I have a bottle to deliver.
Nay, Govanen.
Splendid! I must admit that I wondered if perhaps um, Brigadur would come through on her promise. Oh, his promise, yes. I should have known that he would not forget a friend. Ah, this vintage has the promise of aging nicely. Perhaps in some 30 years it will have aged sufficiently. You have my thanks. Oh, such a brief period of time for an aging, right? We're talking about elves here, right? So therefore, let us head out this way. Hello there. I hear that you're planning on leaving.
A shadow is on my spirit.
Oh, sorry, I got this backwards, didn't I? Oh, my brother wishes to leave Middle-earth, but I believe it is time for us to stand our ground against the shadow growing in the east. Will you help, perhaps? Turon will see reason. Yes, perhaps I could. This Middle-earth, which we love, will soon face great peril, and we are bound to defend it. I cannot yet sail west. Alright, well, I certainly can't disagree with that matter.
Will you hear my sorrows?
Trone must know that while I remain behind, I will never be with him. To do this, I will need your aid. So much of this land has been our shelter and teacher, and our memories are filled with moments of joy and laughter because of this land. I think perhaps my brother will appreciate this well enough to see me on the journey as he begins his own. In the ruins of Dol Ringwest there lies a sword upon the stone cairn, borne once by a Dunedain we fought beside in defense of our homeland. I may be able to remind my brother of our duty to Middle-earth. My duties here will not allow me to leave, but I hope you will see the need I have to seal this rift between my brother and me. Will you help me? Alright, so you want me to fetch a blade from Dol Ringwest? Amazing how all these people want me to go to Dol Ringwest. And?
Will you lend me your ear?
And while you're there, could you please kill some goblins for me? Yes, I don't need to go into a big long quest on why they want me to kill goblins, because they want me to kill goblins. What else do elves like to do? Well, they like peace, relaxation, and all this stuff. Except the goblins disturb them, so they had killed the goblins. They go back to peace, relaxation. Well, maybe that's not quite the case, but you get the idea.
What do you need?
Your news is troubling, Sun Yellow. For dwarves to work peacefully with goblins is unusual enough, but to conspire in the abduction of an elf prince seems foolhardy, even for them. I will not call our warriors to arms just yet, though. Carnivore is full of anger, which is to be expected, of course, but as master of Doyland, it is my duty to exercise restraint. If the dwarves have indeed taken Avarthal, we will fall upon them with such a fury that the mountain shall shake at our passing. But this could also be a trick of the goblins. They would have much to gain by a war between elves and dwarves. You do have a point there. Alright, I guess we could buy that.
Might you spare a moment of your time?
I have dispatched an emissary to the dwarf city of Gondaman to relax the growing tensions between elves and dwarves, but I fear rumor of Arvathar's captivity may prove too great a strain for her to ease. Journey north and west along the road to Gondaman, and tell Galthan what has transpired here. Together, you and she must learn the truth of Arvathar's whereabouts and rescue him, if indeed he is a prisoner of the dwarves. I do not wish for war until we are certain of this fate. If Arvathar has been harmed, or we are unable to free him, I will call our warriors to arms, but not before. Alright, and, well, that's level 11, so therefore, most of these are still level 9, so that means I will continue to turn off experiences. I'm just at the end of 9 right there. The 11 one we'll save till later, since we're not due to hit Gondaman yet in any case. And now, I think it's time to get some herbs. Traditionally, I've gone to the other side of the refuge in order to pick up the herbs, but recently I learned that you could also get them on this side, so therefore, that's what we shall do. And when we do that, yeah, that. While we go along collecting these herbs, we'll then ask the question, if we cannot for sure trace language back down for 100,000 years with any certainty. As I said, measurements at that length of time are imprecise at best. How far can we without any major controversy? And these days, I'd say that's about 5,000 to 6,000 years. We can say that we can trace family groups that would have been together as recently as that. Anything further back, they cannot trace very well what's related to what. And this distance is the time where we have the convergence of the various language groups, at least for the group that we're in, the Indo-European languages. Because the Indo-European languages, Proto-Indo-European, the starter of that whole thing, I have no idea what they called it, of course, and I don't think anyone really does know. In the Proto-Indo-European language, they say it was spoken maybe 5,000, maybe 6,000 years ago. Obviously, exact time estimates are very difficult to make, but they're pretty sure that the languages that we call Indo-European languages are all related to each other, and that they're forming a basic timeline of when these languages were probably all one language and how they split off into the various modern families, such as the Romance languages versus the Germanic languages versus the Hittite language, and even the Tocharian language, which is rather unusual because it's, for some reason, way out in China, or at least it was before the language oh, it is this way. Before the language disappeared. So therefore you have all of these languages all split off from various times. So they form a time period with error bars around it, saying, okay, it couldn't be any earlier than this, any later than this. So between the traces of the descents plus the archaeology, because you got archaeology helping to back things up in order to help define it. So therefore, they're starting to form a consensus about where Proto-European was probably spoken and about how far back it is. And it looks like we need to turn in these herbs.
What do you need?
There, just in time. The last step of the process is to add the herbs you have collected for me. After that, it simply needs to steep for a few minutes and the draft will be complete. Oh, how convenient.
Mind my words, traveler.
The draft is ready. All that remains is for it to be sprinkled upon the grounds within the ruins of Dol Ringwest. It will encourage and speed the growth of the natural vines that one often finds in the place. So much so that by the end of next spring, the ruins will be buried in a great mass of them. In but a short time, they will reduce the ruins to naught but rubble, returning them to the pristine nature once again. To you, I offer the honor of the task, for I find now that I cannot bring myself to destroy the place that once I loved so much, even in its decrepit state. Pour this draft on the ground beneath the two towers that remain standing amongst the ruins. Alrighty, over to... Oh, you also want me to... What?
Will you lend me your ear?
My duty to this land will not be complete until the terror that brought the ruin is ousted. Your effort so far has been in earnest to prove that you're right, okay? On the ruins, I ask that you seek out the leader of the goblins there, Durglup, Durglup, Durglup. Durglup, Durglup. Okay, whatever. Anyway, I think it's time to head out to Dol Ringwest. To Ringwest, young man. Well, maybe not. Or a young elf, I guess. Actually, I can't call myself a young elf, seeing that I'm at least 3,000. I was considered to be a reasonable age 3,000 years ago, so I suppose saying a young elf is probably not right, especially consider that my background story is that I was born in Valinor, right? So obviously it can't be too young if I was born there. Now, where were we? Oh yes, Indo-European. So therefore we have the Indo-European languages. Of course, we also have the similar trees for other groups of languages. And that this is just about how far we could trace it. Now, are we someday will be able to get more precise measurements to go further back? Perhaps. It would be nice if we could find out a little bit more about the history of language and the like, but today we've got some limitations of what we can do. And I think I better turn on... Yeah, so I can actually pick up some scholar mats while I'm in here, because if I'm going to play the scholar, I might as well be able to pick up some scholar mats. Well, I didn't think I asked for 3 at a time. Right, did I ask for 3 at a time? No, I did not. Alright. There you go. Indo-European languages. So therefore, it's a large group of them having a large span. And obviously from the name for Indo-European, we first discovered that such groups existed and could be traced because linguists started to notice that there were similarities between Sanskrit and European languages. And say, how in the world could there be similarities between languages so far apart? And eventually it was concluded that they were descended from a common language, even though those languages let's face it, are mutually incomprehensible. There are just little things that when you look at the vocabulary, it can be seen that there are similarities between them, that if you go far back enough, you find these cognates. Now, these cognates have drifted apart from each other over long periods of time, so it won't be obvious that they're cognate with each other unless you've done an extensive study. So they then, of course, try to trace a preliminary vocabulary based on this information. And yeah, they've tried that. Not particularly well. As far as we could tell, they're reasonably successful and all that stuff. The only problem is there are only so many words you could trace through these methodologies, because over the years, of course, each of the languages picked up new words, dropped existing words, and all that fun stuff. So all the modifications that happens over time only allows you to get the most basic words that can be recovered through this. And there's always the question, okay, how accurate is all this tracing? You really can't be completely sure. But all we can be sure is, yes, that this language was a common ancestor to the current languages that we have. And you won't really be able to understand anything. I know some people try to reconstruct it to hold simple conversations in it or something like this, but to really hold a complicated conversation, you would of course need to use a language that is fully known. Now let's compare this, for example, to Elvish, Sindarin. Now Sindarin, of course, was, within World, of course, it's the native language, well, not my native language, but the native language of a lot of the elves, the ones that were born in Middle-earth. Oh, the second tower! Here's the second tower, so let's use the draft here. And now we can return to camp. Trying to make this more difficult than I thought. That's the problem with trying to talk about one thing while trying to quest, is you forget things. So therefore, Sindarin, of course, was language constructed by Tolkien for working with his world and all this stuff, and of course by the nature of a constructed language, it's incomplete. Proto-Indo-European, therefore, is in the same condition. Yes, there was a language that acted as the ancestor of the Indo-European languages, but of course the stuff that's done in this reconstructed language is in a similar state to it, in that, yes, we've got some vocabulary here. We've got some idea of what its grammar might have been because of the commonalities of grammar in the various descended languages. For example, most of them have some sort of inflection, and yes, you got exceptions like English, which is very lightly inflected, for example, but a lot of them, of course, are inflected, and we know the history of English well enough that we know that it used to have many more inflections than it does today. So therefore, we know that English is the outlier in that matter. Let's turn in all these quests. So therefore, you can have some idea of basic grammar. You can have some idea of the words to it, but the full understanding and being able to communicate with each other within the real world would be very difficult in a constructed or a reconstructed language. So that's something to keep in mind, partly because it's hard to know it completely, your knowledge is incomplete, and second of all, you might not even be sure 100% on how real it is. For example, Neo-Sindarin, which is the version that's spoken in movies and stuff like that, it's been supplemented. Why it's been supplemented? So that you can carry out and have dialogue in it, because you don't have enough words otherwise. So therefore they supplemented Tolkien's work. And so therefore, if someone tried to supplement Indo-European, Proto-Indo-European enough so that you can have a conversation in it, you'll probably have to call it, what, Neo-Proto-Indo-European or something? I know that's getting too many prefixes in there, but you get the idea. The entire point of the matter is, we got an idea how far language has had time to evolve. We got some idea that the languages we could trace back up to the Indo-European, the family group level, but really can't trace further than that. Any attempts to do that have been controversial at best. Is controversial almost as the one about 100,000 years on that. And oh yeah, hello there. I have managed to kill that goblin for you.
What can I do for you?
It's good to know that that threat posed by that creature is no more, and we don't need agility. Vitality. Never hurts to have vitality. Of course, whether or not that's better than the fate is another matter. And the other matter is, I've cleansed the area.
How can I be of service?
Thank you, Sun Yellow. It pains me that I shall never again walk among the spires, which I remember from my youth. But better this than the Middle Earth, with the knowledge that they are a home for creatures of darkness. Well, I suppose there is that. Oh, what do you mean you got another quest for me? What, 6 levels or something? Wonderful. I just remembered that I have a little quest to pick up a scroll of minor woodworking lore, which says I need a early 3rd age relic and an age scrap. I think if I just take one of these and then take one of these, I shall have it. So I'll turn that in at my earliest opportunity. But now let's take care of this little quest. Hello there. I have brought the sword, and is that it? Yes, okay. First of all, I've managed to get rid of the goblins.
The sorrows of the Eldar are never ending.
Yeah, I can imagine. Alright, I'll take the vitality bracelet. And also, I've managed to bring back the sword. Here it is.
Grey is the shadow upon my heart.
This blade means much, broken and dulled as it may be. Alas, the passage of time does little to dull my memories of this battle. Perhaps I have underestimated the importance of brothers. Ooh. What does that mean? I think we're going to find that out in the next episode of Piney Plays the Scholar.